Get your hands off that seat, honey. Someone like you has no business in 1A. I don't know what illusion you crawled in here on, but move. Now. Those were the very first words Clara Voss, 47, white billionaire hotel heiress, spat across the cabin, loud, venomous, dripping with contempt, the moment she saw Maya Lewis, 40, black woman CEO of a $42 billion logistics empire, sitting quietly in her assigned first-class suite. Maya hadn't even finished placing her small leather backpack under the seat before her peace shattered. Clara's voice boomed again, sharper this time. First class isn't a charity program. It's not for whatever you people pretend to be. Get up before I call security and tell them you're impersonating a premium traveler. Passengers froze. A journalist in 2A slowly lifted his phone. A senator paused mid-sip of his champagne. Even the cabin music seemed to dim. Maya, calm but startled, inhaled softly. She was dressed simply. Charcoal sweater, fitted black pants, natural curls pulled into a low bun. Nothing about her appearance advertised that she owned the aircraft they were currently standing in. Clara, in contrast, was a walking advertisement for inherited wealth. White cashmere coat, diamond earrings heavy as gilt, cold blue eyes sharpened into an insult. She leaned down, sneering so close Maya could smell her perfume. Seat 1A? On this route? She laughed, a cruel, barking sound. Sweetheart, that seat alone costs more than whatever economy motel you grew up in. Stop embarrassing yourself and move. Maya met her gaze, steady and unshaken. This is my assigned seat. Clara's laugh snapped through the cabin. Your assigned seat? What did you do? Clean the plane before boarding? Did someone feel sorry for you and let you sneak in here? Because I promise you, this airline does not hand out luxury suites like pity scholarships. She extended her hand. Boarding pass. Now. Before this becomes uglier than it already looks. Maya hesitated for a breath, remembering the verse her grandmother used to recite whenever cruelty showed its teeth. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Romans 12:21. She handed her phone over. Clara snatched it, looked at the digital boarding pass, and rolled her eyes with theatrical disgust. Oh, please. Anyone with a fake screenshot app could make this. She tossed Maya's phone onto the seat like trash. Let's not pretend someone like you has access to anything premium. A flight attendant rushed over, young, nervous, clearly intimidated by Clara's reputation. Clara pointed at Maya like she was pointing at a stain. Remove her from 1A. Move her to the very back, next to the toilets where people like her fit naturally. Do I need to spell it out? Her voice rose, slicing through the cabin. First class is earned, not stumbled into. The young attendant faltered. Passengers shifted uncomfortably. No one intervened. Maya's chest tightened, not from shame, but from the deep, familiar exhaustion of being measured by someone else's prejudice instead of her own truth. But her face remained controlled, quiet, grounded in dignity. She spoke softly. Ma'am, I am allowed to sit here. Clara barked a laugh. Allowed? Sweetheart, I own more luxury properties than you've stepped inside. Your allowance ends where my comfort begins. She leaned closer, voice full of poisonous pride. People like you don't get to be first, anywhere. The cruelty was surgical. The cabin fell silent. The flight attendant finally whispered, Ms. Lewis, can you please step aside while we sort this out? Maya stood slowly, her hands steady. Clara smirked victoriously, as though she had restored the natural order of the world. Passengers watched. Phones recorded. Judgment, silent but heavy, filled the air. Maya stepped back, but her voice remained level. I paid for this seat. Clara tilted her head, mocking innocence. Oh, honey, everyone pays, but not everyone is welcome. The attendant swallowed, unable to defy Clara's power, and gently guided Maya out of the suite. Maya felt heat behind her eyes, a burn she refused to let fall. She had weathered storms bigger than Clara Voss, but humiliation in front of an entire first-class cabin cut differently, deeper. As she walked past the rows, Clara announced loudly, Next time, buy a ticket for a section meant for you. Don't trespass in spaces you don't belong. Passengers shifted, ashamed, but not enough to speak. Maya gripped her backpack tighter. This flight would be her quiet test. Clara had no idea who she had just tried to break. If you have ever been pushed aside, judged unfairly, or treated as less than human, then what happens next with Maya Lewis will make you hold your breath. Don't forget to like and subscribe and stay with Dignity Voices to follow her journey. As Maya is escorted toward the back of the plane, Clara Voss smirks, unaware that the woman she just humiliated owns the aircraft, the airline's contract, and the power to stop the jet before it ever leaves the ground. They made her walk. Not just a step aside, not just a quiet reassignment. They made Maya Lewis, 40, black billionaire founder of Lewis Global Logistics, walk the full length of the first-class cabin like a criminal being escorted out of a courtroom she secretly owned. "Come on," Clara Voss said loudly, flicking her wrist toward the aisle like she was shooing away a stray animal. "Let's return her to her natural habitat before we push back, shall we?" The young flight attendant flinched, but still turned to Maya with a fragile, apologetic smile. "Ms. Lewis, if you'll just follow me, we've found another seat for you." Another seat. Maya almost laughed. Behind her, Clara continued, projecting her voice so every passenger could hear. This is what happens when airlines lower their standards. One minute it's diversity initiatives, the next minute they're handing out premium cabins like charity snacks. A few people in first class looked away, ashamed. A few looked entertained. A few held up their phones a little higher. Maya stepped into the aisle. Her boarding pass was still valid. Her payment was still processed. Her name was still printed on seat 1A in the airline's digital manifest. None of that mattered in that moment. What mattered was that a woman with social power, whiteness, and a last name carved into global hotel facades had decided that Maya did not look like someone who belonged in 1A, and the system bent around that decision. As the attendant led her past the other first-class suites, Maya felt the air thicken with pity and voyeurism. The senator in 2C shifted uncomfortably and murmured, "That's unfortunate," before returning to his tablet. The tech bro in 3A whispered, "Wow, this is messy," as he discreetly recorded. Two journalists in row 4 exchanged a look. One lifted their phone higher. Clara called after her, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'm sure they'll find you something cozy near the restroom. Lots of relatable smells for you back there." Soft chuckles rippled from a few cabins. Not many, but enough. Maya's jaw tightened. She kept walking. "You built an empire," she reminded herself. "You survived broken levees, broken promises, broken ceilings. You will survive this aisle." The attendant led her through the curtain into business class. The mood changed. Less champagne, more laptops. A few passengers glanced up, curious. They'd heard the shouting from up front. "Is everything okay?" a middle-aged woman asked quietly. The attendant forced a smile. "Just a seating adjustment, ma'am." Clara's voice floated back through the cabin curtain like poison mist. "Adjustment? It's called correcting an overreach. Planes fly better when everyone stays in their proper place." The woman winced. The attendant's steps quickened, dragging Maya along like they could outrun the humiliation. They pushed past business class into premium economy, then regular economy, where the aisles narrowed, the bags bulged, and the volume of crying babies and overhead bin battles rose with every step. Maya's heart pounded now, not from exertion, but from something deeper, the old wound of being told again and again that she was out of place in rooms she had earned. They kept walking. Row 22, row 28, row 34. Maya felt eyes on her from every direction. People tried to piece together her story from a glance. Was she being punished? Downgraded? Caught? The attendant's shoulders hunched as they reached the very back of the plane. Row 39. The smell of disinfectant and recycled air grew stronger. The hum of the engines vibrated louder. The doors to the lavatories were just a few steps behind. "Here we are," the attendant whispered, almost ashamed of the words as she spoke them. "Seat 39B, middle seat, directly in front of the toilet, armrest on one side broken, seat pitched so tight that Maya's knees almost brushed the seat in front of her. She stared at it, not in shock, but in quiet, stunned recognition. This was deliberate. This was not a random seat. This was a message. "On behalf of the airline, I'm so sorry," the attendant murmured. "We're very full today and—" "You're not full," Maya said softly. Her voice wasn't angry. It was tired and precise. "You're afraid of her." The attendant swallowed hard, eyes glistening. She didn't deny it. I'll see if we can—" From the front of the plane, Clara's voice rang out again, faint but unmistakable. "Did you find her a seat yet? Or is she still playing tourist in the goods section?" Maya closed her eyes. A sudden memory of her mother flashed in her mind. Standing in a grocery store line years ago, being told to move behind a white woman who'd arrived later. Her mother had squeezed her hand and whispered, "Let them talk." God heard what they did. Maya exhaled slowly and sat down in 39B. Her knees brushed the seat in front. Her shoulder bumped the stranger in 39A. The man in 39C shifted his backpack off her foot with a muttered apology. The lavatory door behind her opened with a click, releasing a wave of harsh cleanser and stale air. Perfect. The purser's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome you aboard Sky Meridian Flight 77. Now, please take your seats as we prepare for departure." Maya looked down at her hands, palms faintly trembling. A text buzzed on her phone. From Brandon, Chief of Fleet Ops. "Everything okay? Just got notification that Near 147 pushed back from gate." Maya stared at the aircraft ID, the 147, one of her newest airframes, one of her proudest achievements, a symbol of everything she had built. She typed, then erased, then typed again. All good. "Just taking the scenic route," she finally replied. She locked her phone and slid it into the seat pocket. The man in 39A, a young mechanic in oil-stained jeans, tilted his head. "What happened up there?" Maya forced a small smile. "Just a misunderstanding." He frowned. "Sounded like more than that." Maya didn't respond. She was afraid that if she opened her mouth, the dam would break. Instead, she leaned back, as far as the barely reclining seat would allow, and stared at the overhead panel. Air vents, reading lights, call button, the same in every row, no matter the ticket price. The intercom crackled again. "Flight attendants, prepare doors for departure." The engines roared louder. The plane began to push back. Maya felt something settle inside her, not resignation, something else. A quiet decision. "You will not break here," she told herself. "You will rise in the same sky they tried to bury you under." In the whisper of her soul, another verse flickered like a candle. "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Exodus 14:14. She closed her eyes, letting the vibration of the engines echo through her bones. Far ahead in first class, Clara Voss lifted a glass of champagne and smirked, believing she had won a tiny private war. She didn't know the truth. The woman she had just banished to the toilet row owned the wings holding them all in the air. The aircraft vibrated gently as it crept along the taxiway, lights shimmering against the runway like a river of stars. But inside the cabin, another kind of storm brewed. Silent, thick, heavy. Maya Lewis sat rigidly in seat 39B, her knees cramped, elbows pinned between strangers, and humiliation hanging on her like a wet coat. The flight attendant had barely finished fastening the galley door when Clara Voss's voice erupted again from the front of the aircraft, slicing through the intercom like acid. "Are you people even trained?" Clara snapped. "My seat hasn't been sanitized since that woman was sitting in it. Get some wipes. Or, better yet, pour some champagne over it. Cleanse the contamination." Passengers gasped. Someone muttered, "Is she serious?" Someone else whispered, "She's unhinged." The flight attendant froze at the intercom panel, cheeks flushing. Maya stared down at her hands. She tried to breathe, but humiliation has levels, and Clara wasn't done digging deeper. Moments later, Clara stormed past the dividing curtain and marched toward the back. People stiffened. Phones lifted again. The captain hadn't stopped her, yet. No one had. She stopped in front of row 39, her shadow falling over Maya like a curse. "Look at you," Clara sneered loudly. "Pretending you belong up there, acting like you earned something more than a toilet seat." Maya didn't look up. Clara leaned closer, voice dripping with venom. "You thought you could sit in first class? You? With those cheap clothes and that discount store demeanor? You thought you could fool people like me?" Passengers murmured awkwardly, but fear kept them still. Clara snapped her fingers. A flight attendant rushed over, trembling. She held a bottle of Sky Meridian's premium rosé champagne, the kind served only in first class. Clara snatched it from her. "Give me that. If the seat is contaminated, I might as well purify the source." Before anyone could react, Clara uncorked the bottle with a violent twist. The cork shot off, hitting the overhead bin with a loud clack. And then she poured the wine directly onto Maya's head. A collective scream rippled through the cabin. Maya gasped as the cold liquid splashed over her hair, her face, her shoulders, soaking her sweater, dripping down her collarbone, staining her lap. Clara tilted the bottle fully, dumping every last drop. "There," Clara said, stepping back with a sick smile. "Now you look like you belong in the back. Sticky, messy, humiliated." Phones recorded from every angle. Passengers were in shock, frozen in disbelief. One woman whispered, "My God, that's assault." A man in 40C muttered, "This is going to go viral." The flight attendant who had handed Clara the bottle stood paralyzed, hands covering her mouth. "Miss Voss, you can't," she stammered. Clara tossed the empty bottle into Maya's lap. It clattered on the tray table with a metallic clang. Maya felt her chest tighten, breath trembling, the sting of tears threatening. She swallowed them back down hard. Her grandmother's voice whispered through her pain, "Blessed are they who are persecuted for righteousness' sake." Matthew 5:10. She closed her eyes. She refused to break for Clara Voss. Passengers finally began to react, some gasping, some protesting, some finally finding their voices. "Hey, that's too far! Leave her alone! What is wrong with you, lady? That's disgusting behavior." But Clara turned on them too, face flushed with rage and entitlement. "Oh, shut up!" she shrieked. "All of you, I'm doing you a favor. People like her don't belong in premium spaces. She should be thanking me for teaching her her place." A young woman in 38A stood up. She was in her assigned seat. "You bullying monster," Clara scoffed. "Assigned? As if. Someone like her either snuck in or got mistaken for staff. She's not worthy of 1A. That seat is for executives, not charity cases." She paced the aisle like a villain on a stage. "You all saw her. She didn't belong, didn't look the part, didn't act the part, sitting up there like she owned it." Her laughter echoed, cold, hysterical, cruel. "Imagine her sitting next to someone like me. It's laughable." Then she pointed down at Maya. "You should be grateful I didn't drag you out myself. You should thank me for the lesson." Maya sat drenched, trembling, wine dripping off her chin. But her eyes burned with something Clara couldn't comprehend. Not weakness, not defeat, but rising strength. Passengers looked at Clara now not with fear, but disgust. A man in 41D whispered, "She's done. No coming back from this." A mother told her teenage daughter, "This is why you always judge people by character, not appearance." A business executive muttered, "I hope this whole thing gets recorded." It already was. Dozens of cameras were rolling. Clara didn't notice, or didn't care. She looked down at Maya one last time. "You're exactly where you belong," she hissed. "At the bottom." Then she marched back toward first class, triumphant. But her triumph lasted exactly 9 seconds, because as she reached the curtain, the engines suddenly powered down. The aircraft shuddered to a halt. Passengers stiffened. "Why did we stop?" someone whispered. "We were about to take off. This isn't normal." And then the cockpit chime sounded. Sharp, clear, urgent. A tone only 2 people on that plane understood. In row 39B, Maya's heart thumped once. DGL Outh LVL 1 owner onboard priority alert. The pilots had just discovered the truth. Passengers murmured anxiously. The captain emerged from the cockpit again, but this time with purpose carved into every line of his face. He walked past first class, past premium, past economy, straight toward Maya. Phones lifted again. Clara turned around confused. Why is the captain walking back there again? But she would learn the answer in seconds. The captain reached Maya's row. He bowed his head slightly. "Ms. Lewis," he said, "may I speak with you?" The entire plane stopped breathing. If you've ever been shamed publicly, humiliated by someone who mistook your silence for weakness, what happens next with Maya Lewis will shake your soul. Because the next 5 minutes on this runway will rewrite everything. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with Dignity Voices for Scene 4. As the captain kneels beside Maya, the entire cabin will learn who she really is, and the woman who poured wine on her will face consequences she never imagined. The captain stood in the narrow aisle of row 39, his uniform crisp, expression solemn. The hum of the engines was gone now, replaced by a thick, breathless quiet. Even the crying baby in row 38 fell silent, as if sensing the moment shift. "Ms. Lewis," he said again, quieter this time, but with unmistakable respect. "May I speak with you privately?" Passengers leaned into the aisle, eyes wide, phones lifted, whispers scattered like sparks. From the front of the plane, Clara Voss barked, "Why are you talking to her? She's the reason we're delayed. I told you to put her in the back where she belongs." No one even looked at her. The captain kept his gaze locked on Maya, steady, almost reverent. Maya rose slowly from the cramped middle seat, feeling the painful stiffness in her legs from being wedged there like luggage. As she stood, the lavatory door behind her clicked open again, a rude reminder of where she had been banished. But something in the air felt different now. Something heavier. Charged. "Please," the captain said, gesturing toward the aisle. Maya nodded once and stepped out carefully. Her body trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the sudden attention of hundreds of eyes. The mechanic in 39A whispered, "Ma'am, whatever's happening, don't let them shame you. You don't deserve this." Maya gave him a small nod, gratitude warming her chest. The captain led her a few rows forward, stopping near the divider curtain. Clara watched them with growing fury, her perfectly sculpted eyebrows twisted into an expression of disbelief and insult. "What are you doing?" Clara snapped. "She's nothing. Why are you treating her like the owner of this aircraft?" the captain said simply. Clara's jaw dropped. A collective gasp rippled through the cabin. Phones shot up instantly. Whispers erupted. Someone muttered, "No way, that's her?" Maya said nothing. She didn't need to. The captain cleared his throat and spoke clearly, his voice carrying through the cabin. "Ms. Lewis, we received a Level-One Authorization Alert from the Lewis Global Logistics Registry. Per protocol, that means the aircraft owner, you, is on board. When this alert is triggered, we must stop taxiing and confirm your location and safety." Every head in the cabin turned toward Maya in stunned recognition. The woman Clara had shredded with humiliation owned the wings beneath their bodies. Clara's face drained of color. "That's impossible," she sputtered. "Impossible. She's dressed like a human being," someone called out from economy. A few passengers chuckled. Others shook their heads in shame, now realizing the scale of Clara's cruelty. Maya kept her eyes soft, her breathing steady. A verse flickered in her memory, faint and steady. "Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted." Matthew 23:12. She didn't speak it aloud. The truth was already doing the speaking. The purser rushed forward, eyes wide with mortification. "Ms. Lewis, I didn't know. We didn't know. Please forgive us." Maya raised a gentle hand. "This isn't about you." Her voice was calm, almost serene. The captain stepped closer. "Per regulation, Ms. Lewis, you have full authority over cabin proceedings, crew assignments, and departure approval. How would you like us to proceed?" Silence swallowed the aircraft whole. Passengers stared at the woman who had endured the worst public degradation any of them had seen, and was now being asked how the flight should continue. Clara exploded. "This is a joke!" she screamed, voice cracking. "She's lying! This is staged! She probably hacked something! People like her know how to scam systems!" Passengers recoiled. The senator in 2C grimaced. The journalists typed furiously. Clara kept ranting, words dripping with venom. "She doesn't own anything. She can barely afford—" "Ms. Voss," Maya said, turning her head slowly. "Please sit down." 4 simple words, but the room shifted around them. Clara's mouth opened, but no sound came out. For the first time, her arrogance collided with something stronger, the quiet, unshakable authority of someone who knew who she was. The captain spoke sharply. "Ms. Voss, return to your seat immediately." Clara stumbled backward, cheeks blotchy red, eyes wild. "This isn't happening. This isn't happening." Maya's eyes didn't leave Clara's as she lowered her gaze, not with superiority, but with a depth of controlled sorrow. A silent look that said everything. "You tried to bury me in the back row, but you didn't know I built the sky above you." Clara fell into her seat like a collapsing tower. The captain turned back to Maya. "Shall I escort you to seat 1A? She inhaled. Years of restraint, years of endurance, years of knowing when to speak and when not to. "Yes," Maya said softly. "Thank you." The captain nodded, then addressed the stunned cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated while Ms. Lewis returns to her assigned place." Maya walked forward down the aisle, not as a victim this time, but as the rightful owner walking toward her throne. Passengers whispered blessings, apologies, admiration as she passed. "You didn't deserve that." "Ma'am, I'm so sorry." "You handled that with grace. You're a legend." She reached 1A, the suite that should never have been stolen from her. She sat down slowly, exhaling a breath she felt she'd been holding for years. Behind her, Clara trembled, but the consequences were only beginning. Maya pulled the privacy door halfway closed and rested her head back, not in triumph, in peace. For a long second, the only thing Maya Lewis heard was the engine's soft idle. Everything else, the whispers, the clicks of recording phones, the sting of humiliation still clinging to her skin, muted into a distant hum. Then the captain spoke again, his voice steady but unmistakably reverent. "Ms. Lewis, may I escort you to your original seat?" Passengers turned in unison. Maya, still standing near row 39, blinked slowly. "Original seat?" someone murmured. "She had a first-class seat?" another whispered. The captain nodded respectfully to Maya. "Yes, ma'am. Seat 1A." A silence fell so heavy, it felt like gravity itself had deepened. Clara Voss whipped around in first class, her face twisting into disbelief. "What did you just say?" she snapped. "Her seat? The cheap one? The charity case? The captain didn't even acknowledge her. His gaze remained firmly on Maya. Around them, passengers began piecing everything together. So she did belong up front. She wasn't lying. Oh, wow. This is bad for that other woman. Maya inhaled deeply, steadying herself. Clara's insults still echoed in her mind. The condescension, the mockery, the whispered venom meant to humiliate her into the smallest version of herself. But then a quiet verse rose in her heart like warm light. "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Exodus 14:14. She exhaled softly. "Captain." "Yes?" "Thank you." They began walking up the aisle together. The walk that had once been humiliation was now transformation. Passengers leaned out into the aisle, whispering, filming, some offering soft nods. A woman held her hand to her heart. A man mouthed, "I'm so sorry." As they approached first class, Clara stepped into the aisle like a barricade. "Stop right there," she barked, pointing at Maya. "I don't care what trick you're trying to pull. She is not sitting next to me. She doesn't belong here. Miss Voss," the captain said firmly, "return to your seat." She laughed, the brittle, hysterical laugh of someone losing control. "This is ridiculous. She's nothing. She's dressed like staff. Or worse, She's not. She, the captain interrupted, is Maya Lewis. Clara froze. The name rippled through the cabin. A businessman in 3D gasped, "The Maya Lewis? LGL?" A young woman whispered, "The logistics billionaire." The senator in 2C straightened in recognition. A journalist nearly dropped her phone. Clara blinked rapidly. No, that can't be. That's impossible. The captain continued, voice steady. Ms. Lewis is founder and CEO of Lewis Global Logistics, and she is the registered owner of Airframe 0147. He let the meaning land. This aircraft belongs to her. The cabin erupted. She owns the plane? Oh my God, Clara harassed the owner. This is going to explode online. She put the owner in the toilet row. Faces filled with shock, shame, awe. Clara staggered backward as if struck. No, she doesn't look like... Like what? Maya asked quietly. Clara opened her mouth, but no words came. For the first time, her arrogance was exposed as the thin mask it was. Maya continued toward 1A, her steps steady. A flight attendant whispered tearfully, Ms. Lewis, I'm so sorry. Maya touched her arm lightly. Learn from this. Then it won't have been for nothing. When she reached 1A, Maya rested her hand briefly on the seat, not as victory, but as reclamation. Clara erupted again. This is not happening, she shrieked. I am Clara Voss. I will not be shown up by... The captain cut her off sharply. Ms. Voss, sit down. The entire cabin went silent. Passengers watched, stunned. Clara trembled with rage. You can't order me around. I pay more in taxes than... Ms. Voss, the purser interjected, voice cold. You verbally abused another passenger, interfered with crew procedures, and escalated a safety situation. Clara's face twisted. Safety? Safety? She is the danger here. But no one believed her anymore. The truth had shattered her illusion of power. The captain cleared his throat. Ms. Lewis, he said, addressing Maya again, per protocol, you can approve or deny continuation of this flight. All eyes shifted to her. Her composure deepened. Almost serene now. Yes, Maya said softly. This flight may continue. A murmur of relief swept the cabin. But then she added, however, the environment must be safe and respectful. That includes removing individuals who compromise that safety. Clara's eyes widened. You wouldn't dare. Maya didn't raise her voice. This is not revenge, she said gently. This is accountability. Clara lunged forward. I will destroy you. I will destroy your company. I will... She never finished. 2 security officers boarded the plane, alerted by the captain. Ms. Voss, one said, please stand. She fought them, wild, desperate, shrieking Maya's name like a curse. But her voice only made her smaller. The more she raged, the more she revealed. Passengers watched in stunned silence as she was restrained. As she passed Maya, still screaming, Maya didn't flinch. Her expression remained calm, not triumphant, not cruel. Just done. The officers dragged Clara down the jet bridge as her screams echoed into the metal cavern. The cabin door closed. A long silence settled. Then a passenger in 2A whispered, Miss Lewis, thank you. Another said, you showed more grace than she ever deserved. A little girl in business class lifted her voice shyly. You were really brave. Maya smiled softly. Brave wasn't the word she would have chosen. But dignity? Yes, always. She leaned back into 1A as the engines powered up. She wasn't broken. She wasn't tarnished. She wasn't small. She was Maya Lewis, and the sky belonged to her again. If you've ever witnessed arrogance collapse under the weight of truth, then what happens next with Maya Lewis will astonish you. Because when Clara Voss leaves the plane, her downfall is only beginning, and the justice ahead will shake an empire. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with Dignity Voices for Scene 6. As police escort Clara Voss away from the aircraft, Maya activates hidden justice protocols inside her corporate contracts. And the entire airline, Clara's company, and federal regulators begin to move. Some falls happen slowly. Clara Voss's will happen all at once. Clara Voss's screams faded down the jet bridge as security escorted her off the aircraft. The cabin door slammed shut with a heavy metallic thud, one that felt less like a door closing and more like the end of an era. Passengers murmured, whispering Clara's name like a scandalous headline already being written. Flight attendants stood frozen, their faces pale, their bodies taut with the shock of what had just unfolded. Maya Lewis sat in seat 1A, the seat she had rightfully purchased, the seat she had been robbed of, the seat that symbolized not luxury, but the dignity that had been stripped from her. But she didn't bask in the silence. She inhaled, exhaled, and then she picked up her phone. Because justice, real justice, was only beginning. The cabin crew took their positions again, trembling slightly as the announcement tone chimed. "Ladies and gentlemen," the captain said, voice controlled but weighted, "we apologize for the disruption. We will resume preparations for departure." The plane pushed back again, but Maya was no longer a passenger enduring humiliation. She was a CEO handling an emergency involving her own aircraft, her own brand, her own reputation, and the integrity of her empire. She tapped her secure corporate line. Beep, encrypted channel established. "Brandon," she said softly, "activate contract protocol 7. On the other end, her chief of fleet operations paused. "Ma'am, that protocol impacts the airline's entire operating contract. Are you sure?" Maya closed her eyes, remembering Clara's voice calling her unworthy, dirty lesser, shoving her into the worst row of the plane she owned. She remembered the verse that had flickered through her soul. "For the Lord loves justice and will not forsake his saints." Psalm 37:28. Her voice was calm. "Yes, begin it." Brandon exhaled sharply. "Understood. Protocol 7 initiated." She ended the call. Moments later, in corporate offices across New York, Houston, and Atlanta, high-level legal teams received flashing red alerts. Lewis Global Logistics, contract breach investigation potential termination, airline partner, Sky Meridian immediate response required. In the cockpit, the captain's iPad pinged with a system-wide update. His eyes widened. "Oh," he whispered. "Oh my." Mid-flight, the airline's CEO attempted to call him directly. He declined the call, because now, per contract, Maya was the highest authority on the plane. The purser nervously approached Maya's suite. "Ms. Lewis, is there anything you require? Anything at all?" Maya looked at her, this frightened woman who had helped drag her to the back without ever questioning Clara. She saw fear, regret, shame. "Just run the flight safely," Maya replied gently. The purser's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, ma'am, absolutely." As the cabin settled, business class passengers leaned into the aisle whispering, "That's Maya Lewis. She owns the aircraft. She's worth billions. She handled that better than anyone else would have." Even passengers in economy craned their necks, desperate to glimpse the woman whose dignity had stayed intact through a storm. Meanwhile, Clara Voss, now separated, handcuffed, and detained in an airport holding room, had already begun spinning the story in her mind. "She humiliated me. She set me up. She thinks she can ruin me? I'll ruin her first." But that story wasn't going to save her. Not today. Not with the footage recorded across the entire plane. A flight attendant approached Maya with a trembling hand. "Ms. Lewis, if you want us to remove any crew member for how they treated you..." Maya held up her hand. "No." The attendant blinked. "You were afraid," Maya said softly. "I understand fear. Correct the problem. Don't create another wound." The attendant's breath hitched, relief washing over her face. Passengers watched, stunned at Maya's grace. Then, ping! A new message landed in Maya's secure inbox. Task Force update. Clara Voss booked for post-flight arrest. Investigators reviewing video evidence. Voss resort stock dropping. Another message followed seconds later. Sky Meridian Airlines requests emergency negotiation CEO asking to speak with you. Maya didn't reply. Not yet. She looked out the window, watching the night sky break open beneath the wings of the aircraft she had built from dreams, grit, and heartbreak. The humiliation she faced today would birth new protocols across the entire aviation industry. It would protect others. It would expose cracks that needed to be repaired. It would elevate conversations about bias, power, entitlement, and dignity. And more importantly, it would expose Clara Voss. The purser made another announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we are beginning our climb. Please enjoy the service. Passengers clapped softly, not for the flight, but for Maya. As the plane reached cruising altitude, Maya whispered a quiet truth only heaven could hear. Justice always rises. Maya Lewis walked off the aircraft with the calm presence of a woman who had endured humiliation, stood in truth, and now carried the weight of justice on her shoulders. Passengers watched her with reverence as she stepped into the jet bridge, some whispering her name, some offering nods of respect, some still stunned silently. But behind her, chaos waited. 2 airport security officers escorted Clara Voss, wrists bound, eyes wild. She jerked against their grip, her voice cracking with rage. "You think this is over?" Clara screamed, twisting toward Maya. "You think you can humiliate me? I am Clara Voss. I built—" "You inherited," one officer muttered. Clara shrieked, lunging, but they held her firm. The entire terminal stopped. Travelers stared as the billionaire heiress, famous for her curated perfection, was dragged through Gate B19 like a criminal stripped of illusion. Maya did not turn. She didn't need to. The truth had already spoken. Within minutes, 5 airport police officers surrounded Clara. Camera flashes erupted. Passengers lifted their phones. News alerts pinged across terminals. Breaking. Clara Voss detained after in-flight altercation with billionaire CEO Maya Lewis. A detective approached Maya. "Ms. Lewis, do you wish to file charges?" Maya folded her hands, choosing her words carefully. "I wish for the truth to run its course. Nothing more." The detective nodded. "It will." And as Clara was dragged away, screaming Maya's name like a curse, the murmurs swelled. "She deserves it." That woman went too far. I can't believe she treated Maya like that. What a downfall. Maya stepped into the VIP corridor, the world beginning to tilt from this moment outward. But she carried serenity, reminding herself of the verse her grandmother loved. "Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven." Psalm 85:11. She whispered it under her breath. Justice had begun. 3 hours later, after lawyers roared into meetings and crisis teams scrambled, Clara Voss was granted temporary bail. She strutted out of the courthouse like a wounded animal forced into a spotlight. Paparazzi flashed cameras. Reporters shouted questions. "Did you attack Maya Lewis? Do you regret your actions on the plane? Is it true you used racist and degrading language? Are the allegations of harassment accurate?" Clara lashed out at the nearest microphone. "She ruined me. That woman set me up. I will not fall because of some—" Her attorney yanked her away before she finished the sentence. But the damage was already done. Twitter exploded. News outlets ran the clip within minutes. Headlines ignited globally. Clara Voss. Meltdown racist rant caught on camera. Voss Resorts stock plunges 37% in 4 hours. Investors flee as public demands accountability. Clara stumbled into her limousine, breath shaking with fury. "She thinks she won," Clara hissed. "She thinks she's untouchable. I'll destroy her company. I'll tear down everything she built. She will regret ever humiliating me." Her lawyer tried to intervene. "Clara, right now you must stay quiet." "Quiet?" she screeched. "I will burn her empire to the ground." And so the billionaire heiress, blinded by ego, fueled by vengeance, began assembling a war she could never win. Within 24 hours of her release on bail, Clara moved like a wounded predator. She summoned her executives, slamming her fist onto the glossy conference table. "Hack her systems," she ordered. "Leak rumors. Manipulate the press. Threaten her suppliers. Crash her partnerships. use shell companies, tank her stock. Her executives exchanged nervous glances. Clara? That's highly illegal. Do it, she roared. I want Maya Lewis begging for mercy. Fear made them obey, but fear also made them sloppy. They hired a private cyber team. They forged documents. They attempted a breach of LGL's encrypted logistics network. They sent an anonymous threat to Maya's board. They tried to manipulate LGL stock through offshore accounts. It took 11 minutes for Maya's cybersecurity division to detect the attack. 11 minutes. A blinking red warning filled the headquarters command center. Unauthorized breach attempt. Source: Voss International Compliance Threat Protocol, activated alert FBI cybercrime unit, yes, no. The chief security officer clicked yes, and just like that, Clara Voss had declared war on a fortress. At 3:14 a.m., Clara's Beverly Hills mansion was swarmed. Black vehicles, federal cyber agents, compliance officers. 2. U.S. Marshals. They surrounded her marble staircase as she screamed, "You can't arrest me! I'm Clara Voss! I am the brand!" A marshal stepped forward with calm authority. Clara Voss, you are under arrest for attempted corporate fraud, cyber intrusion, conspiracy, harassment, threats of coercion, market manipulation, obstruction, and retaliation against a witness. Her knees buckled. No. 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 You can't do this. She set me up. But it was over. Her executives, desperate to save themselves, had already surrendered evidence. Emails, recordings, internal messages, forged documents, digital footprints. Clara Voss had built her revenge with gasoline. Now she was drowning in the fire. The news exploded. Clara Voss arrested again. Facing federal charges, Voss Resorts, stock in free fall. Down 73%, investors withdraw billions in hours, board of directors resigns. Her empire imploded on live television. Hotels withdrew partnerships. Travel agencies dumped their contracts. Luxury magazines removed her from covers. Major banks froze accounts pending investigation. Employees resigned in droves. One anchor summarized it bluntly. Clara Voss's collapse may be the fastest downfall of a billionaire in modern history. By the end of the week, Voss International Resorts filed for emergency restructuring. By the end of the month, it was bankrupt. By the end of the quarter, Clara Voss was sentenced to prison, her mugshot replacing the glamour photos she once paid millions to maintain. Meanwhile, Maya stood at the window of her Houston headquarters, overlooking the skyline her company had helped rebuild after hurricanes, floods, and economic storms. Her board approached her with updates. We've been cleared of all allegations. Press is praising your grace. Stock is rising. People are demanding policies inspired by your treatment on the flight. Maya nodded. Good. Let what happened become a lesson, she said softly. Not a weapon. She turned back to the window, watching the planes descend into the horizon. She whispered a quiet prayer. Thank you for truth. Thank you for light. 2 months after the flight that shook an entire industry, the airport felt strangely gentle. Morning sunlight spilling across polished floors, soft boarding announcements echoing in the distance, travelers rolling suitcases from one gate to another. Maya Lewis walked alone. No entourage, no cameras, no reporters. Just a quiet woman with a simple coat, a worn leather backpack, and a calmness that came only from surviving storms without losing her soul. As she approached Gate A12, she paused. This was the same terminal where Clara Voss had been dragged away screaming, the same corridor where whispers had followed Maya like long shadows. Now, the world was different. She was different. But she carried no bitterness. She pressed her hand against the cold glass, watching an aircraft taxi in, a Lewis Global Logistics A900 Elite. Her aircraft, her dream, shaped into metal and wings. Employees at the nearby gate began whispering, "That's Maya Lewis. She changed everything. She made airlines rewrite their entire bias protocols. She didn't destroy anyone. She just told the truth." Maya offered a polite smile and continued walking. She wasn't here for applause. She was here for closure. The news cycle had exhausted every angle of the Clara Voss scandal. Billionaire downfall, federal charges, collapsed empire, Voss Resorts bankruptcy. industry-wide bias reform. Clara had faded into the background of prison walls, powerless, voiceless, forgotten. Maya never spoke her name again. Not out of avoidance, but out of peace. Some stories don't need to be reopened once God closes them. An attendant approached gently. "Ms. Lewis, would you like to pre-board? It's your aircraft, after all." Maya laughed softly. "I think I'll board with everyone else today." The attendant nodded, eyes shining with respect. When her group was called, Maya stepped onto the jet bridge with quiet reflection. The metallic scent of the aircraft interior washed over her, familiar, grounding. She touched the fuselage before stepping in, whispering, "Thank you for carrying me. Not just in the sky, but through the fire." Her grandmother used to say, "Grace is when God lets you rise without stepping on anyone." Maya understood that now more than ever. As she entered the plane, a young woman in a flight attendant uniform approached nervously. "Ms. Lewis? Yes? I was on that flight 2 months ago. I didn't speak up. I froze. I should have defended you, and I didn't. I'm so sorry." Maya looked at her, a woman no older than 24, eyes glassy with regret. "What's your name?" Maya asked. "Jordan." Maya took her hand gently. "Jordan, courage doesn't always show up in the moment. Sometimes it arrives later, when we choose to do better." Jordan swallowed hard. "Because of you. I reported the bias in our training manuals, and they're rewriting everything now. You changed things." Maya smiled warmly. "No, we changed them." Jordan wiped a tear and hugged her quickly before stepping away, leaving Maya with a warmth blooming in her chest. This was why dignity mattered. Not for pride, but for the people who would walk behind her. Maya settled into seat 1A again, not as a statement, but as a circle closing. She took a slow breath as the engines hummed to life. The cabin lights dimmed to a soft gold. She looked out the window at the rising sun painting the runway in amber. Somewhere far away, Clara Voss was serving her sentence. But Maya held no malice. Her heart was light. Because she had learned the deepest truth of all. The greatest victory is peace. The aircraft pushed back. Maya whispered a final verse into the quiet morning. "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." Matthew 5:9. The jet accelerated, lifted, rose into the open blue, and Maya rose with it. Some stories end with punishment, others end with revenge, but the story of Maya Lewis ends with grace, the kind that transforms pain into purpose. She was humiliated in front of strangers, degraded by someone who believed privilege outweighed humanity. Yet she never answered cruelty with cruelty, only truth, dignity, and unwavering self-worth. Her journey reminds us that quiet strength outlives loud arrogance, and no matter who tries to push you into shadows, truth always finds its way to the light. If you have ever been underestimated, mistreated, or silenced, Maya's story is a reminder that your worth is not determined by someone else's blindness. When injustice rises, let your response be rooted in truth, not anger. For justice built on grace has the power to change systems and hearts. This story touched me deeply, not because Maya defeated Clara, but because she refused to let hatred reshape her. Her strength was not in her power, but in her peace. Thank you for watching and supporting Dignity Voices. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more powerful stories that restore dignity, elevate justice, and celebrate the triumph of the human spirit.